Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's first update, this live stream, which is on both my channels on YouTube and Rumble. And if you are watching on YouTube, and if you can switch to my Rumble channel, that will be great, dear friends. That might help me to further develop a channel on Rumble. If not, it's okay. Today is, of course, 7th of November. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. And as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments. And I hope you will find it informative and useful, interesting. And if so, please like the video, leave some commentary, share with your friends if you can. And hopefully there are going to be no technical issues, dear friends. I hope so. In any case, because I'm alone right now, wife is at work, kids, one is in school, another is in university. I'm literally alone, and if there is any technical issues, please write about it in a chat, and I will time to time check chat to make sure that I am either online or there is no issues with the sound. So. Okay, that's being said, dear friends. Of course, you can use that super chat feature on Rumble if you want to support my work or to highlight any question or commentary that or the topic that you want to be discussed after the news segment. And yes, under this video in description box, there is some links that you can use to donate to this project if you want to. That's being said, let's start the news segment now. And first of all, breaking news, I will say, dear friends, breaking news. And this is not about British desire of British elites to get engaged directly in a war with Russia. I will get to that news also. But I'm going to start with this report from Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, which is warning that Western countries are preparing sabotage at the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. And I think this is extremely important information that Russian intelligence service is sharing with the Russian community, with the world community, because we know Western so-called elites are capable of any crime, any atrocity, and ZNPP and number of other Russian nuclear power plants were constantly under attack, especially ZNPP, right? And I'm taking this report of SVR very seriously because to divert attention of public from disastrous developments for the NATO, for the West on the line of contact in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, they might actually go ahead and provoke some nuclear disaster on ZNPP. I can give you some details from statements of Russian Foreign Intelligence Service. So Western countries are preparing to sabotage the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant by melting down the cores of its nuclear reactors, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service reported. And that means, dear friends, that they're going to target power supply, not just outside power supply, which is being in process of rebuilding, as you know, dear friends, for about 20 days plus, and maybe to nowadays even. Zaporozhye nuclear power plant was cut off from outside power supply, which is crucial for many security systems of the nuclear power plant, including cooling system, right? And all this time, Zaporozhye nuclear power plant was working on diesel electric generators to provide electricity for all main systems of the plant. So, and this situation was provoked by Kiev regime because they were constantly shelling those power lines that are supplying Zaporozhye nuclear power plant from outside. And after this statement of SVR, I was thinking that Kiev regime will most likely attack not just their outside supply lines, but they will conduct heavy shelling of Zaporozhye nuclear power plant to destroy these diesel electric generators that are on a power plant territory and are providing, in emergency situations, are providing electricity to their cooling system and other crucial systems, right? Let me give you details, dear friends, from this statement of SVR. A major act of sabotage is being proposed with the casualties among Ukrainians and the residents of EU countries, similar to the tragedy of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 in 2014. In this regard, the option of sabotaging the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, resulting in a meltdown of nuclear reactor cores, is being considered. The influential British NGO Chatham House has already calculated the consequences of such an accident. The statement reads, according to SVR, Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, given the prevailing winds, residents of Kiev-controlled areas and citizens of EU countries located near Ukraine's western borders will be within the radiation distribution area. This is confirmed by the results of specially conducted computer modeling. Western countries plan to blame Russia for the incident. In this way, European NATO members want to reverse their negative developments in the Ukrainian conflict. The department explained the collective West is once again prepared to deceive and even kill Ukrainians and their citizens of Western countries in order to attribute the Kiev regime's crimes to Russia and justify its Russophobic policies and efforts to foment war, the service noted. At the same time, Chatham House plans to prepare arguments in advance for any developments and ensure media coverage of their situation in such a way that the Western public will side with Kiev in determining who is to be blamed for the incident, the SVR concludes. So this is a big deal, of course, dear friends. This is a big deal. I'm quite sure Western neighbors of Kiev-controlled territory, Hungary, Slovakia, even Poland, by the way, and Romania probably will pay close attention to this statement, because yet again, when we are talking about Western so-called elites, globalists, we know they are desperate at this point. They are losing this proxy war against Russia, right? And that means for them end of their domination, right, or relevancy on a geopolitical scale, and they cannot live with that, right? And therefore, out of desperation, they will go all the way, right? They will undertake any provocation that they can come up with to somehow turn the tide. And even though they're not going to be able to actually turn the tide and achieve their dream about strategical defeat of Russia, this type of provocation is very much possible. After all, we should remember that just a couple of months ago, globalists and globalist-controlled regimes in the West orchestrated attack on Russian nuclear triad. When airfields were bombed, where strategical aviation was based, and potentially, I mean, who could be sure that on those planes, for example, there were no nuclear weapons? It's airfields for strategical aviation that was targeted, right? So they already proved, by the way, globalists and Western elites, secret services of Western elites, especially US and British secret services, already proved that they have no red lines. They have no red lines. They are capable of any atrocity, any crime whatsoever. So very significant developments, dear friends. Let me show you on the map where Zaporozhye nuclear power plant is located. It's on a bank, that used to be bank, by the way, of Kakhovka water reservoir. And let me show you, by the way, Energodar city must be somewhere here. That's Energodar city, by the way. This is Kakhovka water reservoir, which is half empty, by the way, even more. After Kakhovka dam was destroyed, water reservoir lost a significant volume of water. And this is ZNPP. This is a nuclear power plant that we are talking about. Biggest nuclear power plant in Europe, by the way. And if despite this preemptive step from Russian government, basically Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, which informs whole world that Western elites are planning terrorist attack on Zaporozhye nuclear power plant to actually provoke a nuclear disaster. Maybe despite this preemptive step from Russian side, Western elites will go ahead and do this terrorist attack anyways, right? And in that case, I think people will be in harm's way, not just on Kiev control territory, not just on in the countries that are bordering Kiev control territory, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, Poland, Belarus, Russia itself, but also people all over the Europe, because I remind you, dear friends, that when a catastrophe happened, when disaster occurred on a Chernobyl nuclear power plant, radioactive trace was detected. Radioactive particles were detected in Norway, in northern parts of Norway, and even in UK. So if anybody thinks in France, for example, that, well, they don't care because they are just too far, no, they are not, because winds don't care about borders, right? Winds can take this particle just anywhere, and then all it takes is a little rain, right? And all these radioactive particles gonna drop on a surface and poison potentially for decades and decades, even hundreds of years, massive areas, and cause tremendous harm to life, to any life form, basically, not just humans, but any life form. So I think this is very important information that as we are shared with the public, hopefully this preemptive step will be enough to stop those psychopaths that are in charge of collective West from taking this far the provocations, right? But I'm not sure they're gonna stop, man, because as I said, out of desperation they are capable of absolutely any atrocity, and they have proved that many times, right? So that's the information that I wanted to start with. Let's see how the situation develop, and I wonder if any Western media outlet whatsoever reported about this information from Russian Foreign Intelligence Service. Did any media outlet reported in the West about it? I don't think so. And let me check the friends chat now to make sure there is no comments about some technical issues. Seems like everything is okay. Great. So in that case, let me continue, dear friends, with some other news. But I wanted to start it with this report from SVR, because this is very, very dangerous plans that globalists and their puppet regimes in the West have to further escalate. And now let's talk about other major topic, which is that reporter from, according to reports from Guardian, British media outlet, UK army is basically ready to participate directly in the armed conflict in Ukraine. This is Guardian, by the way. This is not a Russian media outlet or pro-Russian media outlet. This is media, so-called media from the UK, total Russia haters, right? And they are reporting that the British army is ready to participate directly in armed conflict in Ukraine. I remind you that a couple of weeks ago, Russian Foreign Intelligence Service reported that based on orders from French President Macron, French military has already created at least 2,000 strong expeditionary corps to get engaged directly against Russia. And according to SVR, forward units, some of the units at least, of that French foreign legionnaires were already deployed in Poland, not far away from a border with the so-called Ukraine. And well, it well might be that those foreign mercenaries already entered those French foreign legionnaires, by the way, designated as mercenaries or not, but it is highly likely that they already entered Kiev control territory, or maybe they are waiting for British troops to arrive so that they will enter Kiev control territory together, because this report from Guardian came literally just a few weeks after that revelation about French desire to send its troops into Kiev control territory, right? So big escalation is coming, by the way, and I think this well might be part of our next phase of escalation that I have spoke about on numerous occasions, right? And what I mean by this, for new members of our community that might be right now online, for new members of our community, I will say what I have said already quite a number of times about this next phase of escalation. That, in my personal opinion, global is not gonna stop. They're gonna continue to escalate, and during that next phase of escalation, probably globalists, their allies, neocons, and their regimes all over the West that they are in control of, they will probably try to conduct decapitation strike on Russian Federation against Russian political and military leadership, or simultaneously they will launch massive drone and missile strikes. And when I say massive, I mean massive, hundreds and hundreds of drones and missiles. And for these purposes, to be able to do so, Western countries, European NATO member states, for last months already, even longer than that, are conducting false flag operation after false flag operation with their alleged Russian drones and their planes and so on. And these false flag operations are used to justify deployment of NATO military aircraft close to Russian border, right? And those aircrafts then going to be used during this next phase of escalation to launch massive volleys of cruise missiles. That's what is going on, right? Simultaneously to attempt of decapitation strike and large-scale, unprecedented scale drone and missile strikes deep into Russia, including towards Moscow, by the way, globalists, NATO basically, will use, and NATO countries will use their assets in Russian territory, and I'm afraid they do have assets on Russian territory. They will use them to conduct large-scale terrorist attacks, right? And simultaneously, they will go ahead with their large-scale, unprecedented scale cyber attacks on Russian Federation. They want to create total chaos in Russia. That's what their goal will be during that next phase of escalation, right? And simultaneously to every step that I just mentioned, they will probably begin deploying their troops, ground forces, on Kiev-controlled their territory. And all these reports now from Guardian about the British Army being ready to directly participate in armed conflict, and reports of Russian SVR that French army already created a 2,000 strong expeditionary corps, and it could be like twice big or 5 times bigger, isn't it? Most important here is decision that decision was made to get engaged directly in the conflict. So those reports about French foreign legionnaires, this report about British armies definitely can be and most likely is a part of this next phase of escalation, right? And if I can see this, hopefully think tanks that are providing analytics to Russian leadership, they see it too, and hopefully we are ready. Hopefully Russian Federation is ready, by the way. And there is many other indicators, by the way. I didn't say anything right now about extreme escalation by NATO in the Baltics, right? And that's also a big deal. NATO member states, officials of NATO member states, openly are talking about blockading Kaliningrad region, for example, which is clearly act of war, right? So they are getting ready, by the way. They are getting ready for massive strike, massive assault on the Russian Federation. And well, hopefully we are ready, and we will withstand this attack, and we will strike back with such a force and scale that after that globalists and their allies, neocons and the rest, will finally lose any illusions, any hopes about achieving strategical defeat of Russia. Hopefully they will then face the reality, acknowledge capitulation, come to table and sign up for capitulation. But seems like unprecedented scale of escalation, including direct clashes between Russia and NATO member states, is absolutely inevitable at this point. Scale of these direct clashes is in question. We cannot know this, isn't it? it might down spiral very quickly into a full-scale nuclear exchange, for example, right? If US will get engaged too. Although it's not necessarily gonna go full nuclear, but seems like NATO is absolutely determined. Number of NATO member states, especially European ones, are absolutely determined to go ahead with their direct open confrontation with Russia. And this is bad news, by the way. This is bad news for everybody who don't want to see no wars, man. Of course, Russia will withstand this attack. I have no doubts about it. Of course, we will force Western elites to face the reality and capitulate, but in process, very many people might die. Very many people might die, and all because of this sickening, inhuman elites of the Western world. That's how it is. That's how it is. And I did mention several indicators, right? Already that West is preparing a direct open conflict with Russia. And I give you this another indicator too, that on November 19th, in just 2 weeks' time, the European Commission plans to present the military Schengen project for the rapid transfer of troops, military equipment, and the cargo within the European Union. And you think what this is, for example. Of course, this is also preparation for this next phase of escalation so that troops of NATO member states will have no trouble moving around European countries to get into closer to Russia or to Q-control territory, to get engaged directly with Russian troops, right? So this is also a clear indicator that NATO is preparing war. And yet again, because Western elites, Western so-called and media in the West that is controlled by those so-called elites will not inform the public in the West about all these developments, about what is going on actually. Well, I'm afraid Western societies will, in majority, will say and do nothing to stop this madness. And soon it's gonna be just too freaking late. That's the situation, Bob. War is inevitable. Direct war, direct military clashes between Russia and NATO states, number of NATO states seems to be absolutely inevitable at this point. Only question is scale. Only question remains scale of these clashes. Will it go full nuclear, or it will be contained in certain ways so that nuclear weapons will not be deployed? We're going to find out, I guess. Meanwhile, of course, on the battlefield, nothing is stopping. Situation is developing. Russian forces are advancing on daily basis, and the situation is so dire for NATO and NATO proxy regime that even big names in Western so-called media are forced to acknowledge at least partially, these developments. And for example, Washington Post come up with an article that with the headline, "Ukraine must choose between saving territory or its men in a Pokrovsk fight." Okay, good that Western big names in Western media that unfortunately still have some influence over the public, over their formation of the public opinion, are acknowledging that NATO has some trouble there, right? NATO is losing actually, because when they say Kiev or Ukraine, it's NATO, right? We all understand that. And this is true. This is true, actually. Kiev regime and its NATO backers have to choose, and they already made a decision, by the way. They already made a decision. They're not going to evacuate nobody. They're not going to evacuate their troops. First of all, because they cannot do this. And secondly, because that was the pattern all this time, all these years, right? Kiev regime is sacrificing thousands of its troops for just not to face the reality, right? Because they know it's a bad media optics for them, and these optics are very decisive for the Western world in general. It's all about PR in the West, right? It's all about public relations, and the Kiev regime, being proxy of the West, of course, acts in a similar manner, and therefore, to somehow avoid this negative optics for themselves and their Western masters, they will sacrifice as many thousands of their troops as they possibly can. Everybody that are encircled there on a controlled territory, and therefore, as Russian military has already said, only chance, realistic chance for encircled Kiev regime's troops in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration that you see right now on your screen is to contact Russian militaries and basically organize safe surrender. That's the only way most of them will be able to save their lives. Some troops of Kiev regime already surrendered, by the way, and I guess as time goes by, as Russian troops intensify clearing operation in Pokrovsk, for example, which is under full Russian control, by the way, there is a little parts on this pocket, on the northeastern side of city that is formally still controlled by Kiev regime's forces, but it's encircled, and I guess clearing operation is already underway, and maybe before end of today, military channels and maybe even Russian defense minister will report that Pokrovsk is completely under Russian control, which is true. Although, as I said, city is quite a big one. There is thousands of different buildings in the town, right? Underground facilities that have to be checked, and this clearing operation might take a week even, or maybe two, right? Because you're not gonna risk, if you are on the ground, if you are Russian military on the ground, why would you risk, right? You will take time to clear house after house, or underground facility after underground facility, street by street, to make sure that your unit not gonna have a casualties, right, in this process. And I'm quite sure in many areas of Pokrovsk, some groups of Kiev regime's troops are encircled, basically trapped. And there was already instances, by the way, when these trapped troops of Kiev regime, because they have no communication in many ways, in many occasions, because their batteries are dead on radios, or they just cannot communicate with nobody, right? Therefore, they were waiting until I have seen video of that, by the way, when a group of Kiev regime's forces in Pokrovsk was waiting when someone from Russian troops would pass nearby, and they called Russian militaries, right? They had no other means of communicating. They called them and said that they are trapped there, they want to surrender, and they did, right? And their entire unit was taken prisoner there. So this kind of instance is gonna happen many times. And now, of course, Russian troops are also focused on Mirnograd, and their clearing operation has begun in Mirnograd. Russian troops have significant progress in most southern districts of this city, although already there is a strong presence of the Russian militaries in eastern and the northern sides of Mirnograd. And yet again, hope is very tricky stuff, isn't it? Maybe some units of Kiev regime still have hope that Kiev will save them, Zelensky and his regime will save them. They will conduct some operation, right, to create some corridor to evacuate these encircled troops. And therefore, until that hope will die, probably many units of Kiev regime will stay in their positions, but when this hope is dead, then they will probably lay down arms and surrender, because what is the point to people die, man? There is also one moment to keep in mind that according to some reports, it's not just forcefully mobilized military personnel that is encircled in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd area, but also Nazi formations, also formations that are linked to terrorist radical elements, Nazist elements, Nazist movement and their groups. And those ones probably will not even think about surrendering because they know they're going to be treated as a terrorist because they are designated here in Russia as a terrorist, right? For example, terrorists from Azov formation, neo-Nazi formation, they're not going to be treated in the same way as a forcefully mobilized personnel of Kiev regime, for example, right? So this is also something that we have to keep in mind because those units, and we are talking about hundreds and hundreds of these Nazis, by the way, that being encircled. If thousands are forcefully mobilized, there is also hundreds and hundreds of military personnel that are from these Nazi formations, right? And the Russian troops will have to neutralize them on the spot. They're not going to surrender, those Nazis, right? So this is also something to keep in mind. But even Western military experts, pro-Ukrainian military experts, by the way, are saying that clearing operation of entire this area will take maximum 2 weeks. Maximum 2 weeks. Battle for Pokrovsk-Kupyansk is quite effectively over. It's a clearing operation that is happening now. Although as I already said in my previous update, one of the previous updates, theoretically speaking, it is probably a possibility, a little tiny possibility, but nevertheless, probably there is some chance that Kiev regime will contact Russian side and ask for a humanitarian corridor for its troops, at least for wounded ones. And, Moscow might say, okay, get out, take out your wounded. And with wounded, of course, most of the units of Kiev regime gonna run through that corridor. And I'm saying so because in many instances, when there was encirclement, by the way, before on the line of contact, big encirclements, latest one was, for example, in the Pokrovsk salient. Somehow, Kiev regime's forces were managing to escape, right? Without equipment, yes. On their foot, in most of the cases, yes. But somehow they were managing to escape, and questions are rising. Did they actually escape, or they were allowed to go out, to leave this encirclement? And I think they were allowed to escape, and there is a calculus for that too. It's 4,000 to 5,000 allegedly military personnel of Kiev regime that is encircled in Pokrovsk-Kupyansk, right? Mainly now in Mirnograd. And of course, this clearing operation, no matter how hard Russian officers, Russian commanders on the ground are going to try to save the lives of their military personnel, it's a 4,000 or 5,000 armed enemy troops, right? And this clearing operation might take lives of potentially tens, hundreds of Russian military personnel, and twice, 3 times more could get injured, right? And to avoid these casualties, Russian side might allow Kiev regime's troops to kind of escape, right, from this encirclement. I see such a possibility. Maybe it's just like 0.1% chance of that, but nevertheless, we should keep that in mind too, I think, right? So that's when it comes to Pokrovsk-Kupyansk. Battle is quite effectively over. It's a political decision is left now from Moscow, and also it's a matter of time how long this clearing operation will take place. And that's about it, right? Kiev regime did try to conduct, or Kiev regime's forces did try to conduct counteroffensive operations in Rodninskaya direction. There was a heavy clashes there. Russian militaries were annihilating basically incoming troops of Kiev regime in the northern central areas of Rodninskaya. And yet again, as I said, if political decision is made to allow escape of this encircled military personnel of enemy, in that case, Russian troops might receive order to withdraw from Rodninskaya, from southern parts of Rodinsk, because that's how they're gonna escape. That's how these encircled troops of Kiev regime gonna escape. North side of Mirnograd, and this is Rodinsk, right? Settlement there. But if Moscow will say, you know what, no, we're not gonna allow no one to escape. Best way to save their lives, if Kiev regime is interested in that, is to order their encircled troops to lay down arms and surrender. And in that case, well, that will be the it, right? That will be only chance for Kiev regime's forces to save the lives, lay down arms and surrender. That's Pokrovsk-Mirnograd, isn't it? Also, Russian troops, dear friends, are further advancing. There is not just this sector. There is many other sectors, right, that Russian troops are advancing. And, for example, reports are coming in that Uspenovka settlement is under full Russian control. This map did not updated yet, these developments. But yes, Uspenovka, this relatively big settlement, by the way, on a right bank of Yanchu River, is under full Russian control. And reports are coming in that this area, Ribne, this tiny settlement, is also under Russian control. Russian troops basically are very close, getting closer and closer to this main supply and support line of the Kiev regime's forces in Gulyai-Polye, that connects this Gulyai-Polye garnison with Dnipropetrovsk region. And if in the eastern side of Zaporozhye flank, there is quite a length to go, right, before this supply and support line will be cut in Zaporozhye. In Dnipropetrovsk region, Russian troops are literally like few kilometers away from this main supply and support line, right? Once Danilovka settlement is liberated, that's it. That's it. Kiev regime's garnison in Gulyai-Polye will lose main supply and support line. Then after that, they will be relied on another one that goes westwards towards Orekhov. But it's not going to be easy to use that line, because I expect once Russian troops will get closer to Gulyai-Polye, we will see simultaneous offensive in Orekhov direction also. My guess, by the way, I'm no military expert, so this is just a guess on my part. Also, of course, there is a Konstantinovka area, which is not yet encircled, but Russian troops advancing inside the Konstantinovka, nevertheless, on southern-eastern part of this city. But of course, focus in DPR, focus right now is on Pokrovsk-Mirnograd, understandably so. Also, reports are about further progress of the Russian armed forces in Liman, in Seversk-Liman direction, and Russian troops are getting closer and closer to Liman. According to some reports, forward units of the Russian armed forces already are in Liman, by the way, and are establishing their strong presence. And this is yet again speculations on part of different military experts. Russian Defense Ministry did not yet reported about offensive on Liman itself. But yes, Russian troops are advancing basically all along Seversk-Liman route, right, from Serebryanka forest area, and all the settlements basically in between these two cities, major strongholds in the northern part of DPR, are either under Russian control or already been disputed between the sides. And when it comes to Kupyansk, dear friends, another stronghold of Kiev regime that is about to be liberated by Russian forces, according to reports that I see in Russian media, Russian militaries that are operating on the ground are saying that it will take only a couple of days before clearing operation will be finalized in the western part of the city. And this town is divided in two parts, by the way. You can see on your screen right now, there is a western part and the eastern part, right? And there is a Oskol River in between. And this morning I read an article according to which Russian militaries on the ground were saying that for them it will take maybe 3, 4, 5 days max to finalize clearing operation of in the western part of Pokrovsk, and then Russian troops most likely will take care of eastern part or left bank of the Askol river. It's about 5,000 troops of Kiev regimes that are encircled, trapped in Kupyansk. Also, Russian troops are further advancing in the north, and Kupyansk is a Kharkov region already. Dear friends, of course, you know it. And when it comes to northern parts of Kharkov region, reports are coming in about significant progress of the Russian armed forces in Volchansk city, and some military experts are even reporting that Volchansk is basically under operational control of the Russian troops now. Both sides, northern part and southern part. This map was not updated, I guess, for last 24 hours, but even here you can see this gray zone extends almost to the end of the city, right? On the southern side, inter-industrial area is under Russian control, based even on this unupdated, not updated map yet, but reports are that Russian troops basically are advancing in all directions. Soon, probably, we will see another encirclement of at least several hundred of Kiev regime troops in this central part of southern Volchansk. Let's see, but I think it's only a matter of maybe, I don't know, week also, and Volchansk is going to be fully liberated. And I guess this is it when it comes to short summary of the development on battlefield. If you are interested in more details, dear friends, and of course there is a lot more details that are taking place on the line of contact. For that, of course, I recommend military channels. They are focused exactly on that to share as much details as possible on developments on the line of contact. So that's been said, let's continue with some other news. And we have this report from RIA Novosti that Russian soldiers reported on the completion of cleanup of the western part of Kupyansk. Oh, really? I forget that I did bookmark this news, man. And this morning I read the article which said that it will take maybe 4 or 5 days to finalize clearing operation. And this one is saying that clearing operation is complete in the western part. So the Western Force Group is completing the clearing of the western part of Kupyansk. This was said by commander of the assault detachment of the 121st Motorized Rifle Regiment, call sign Lavrik, in a video provided by the Ministry of Defense. My units is completing the clearing of the western part of Kupyansk. Over the past 24 hours, we liberated 16 more buildings. Our drone cruiser have been very helpful, burning 3 pickup trucks carrying militants in one day. Day before, the Russian fighters also destroyed a group of 7 militants who were attempting to escape from the city in 2 armored combat vehicles. Well, this attempt to escape from Kupyansk is taking place literally on daily basis. And that report of RIA Novosti, by the way, is not contradicting what I just said earlier, that Western clearing operation in western part of city will be finalized in next 4 to 5 days. This commander of the unit basically said that we are completing clearing operation. He did not said that it's already finished. It's a process. And I guess this morning's report that I read was correct. It will take at least 4 or 5 days, I guess, because why should Russian troops be in a hurry, right? They can take time to save their lives, right? Whenever there is opportunity, they can contact enemy troops to offer surrender, because we should keep in mind that, well, even though there are neo-Nazi formations, of course, among enemy troops, much more armed personnel of Kiev regime is a forcefully mobilized personnel that don't really want to be part of this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And of course, those people, those forcefully mobilized people, have to have a chance, by the way, have to have a chance to lay down arms and surrender. And Russian troops, I'm quite sure, whenever there is opportunity, gonna offer such a chance, gonna give them such a chance to lay down arms and surrender. That will be right a move, of course. Also, we have this report that deployment point of foreign mercenaries were targeted in Chuguev, targeted and destroyed in Chuguev. So launch sites for Ukrainian armed forces long-range attack drones, as well as deployment site for foreign mercenaries, have been destroyed in the Kharkov region. Russian security forces told RIA Novosti, and this happened, by the way, in Chuguev area. Well, hopefully, very many foreign mercenaries were neutralized as a result of this strike. And when we say foreign mercenaries, probably all of us, dear friends, are automatically thinking about some special forces of their NATO countries, isn't it? Although there is a lot of foreign mercenaries that are fighting on the Kiev regime side, this is also true. But I don't know about you, but me personally, whenever I hear news about foreign mercenaries being neutralized, first what comes to my mind is maybe this was some special forces or special purpose unit of either UK or France or some other NATO country. And most likely, quite often, this is exactly their case. RT is also reporting that Trump, meanwhile, stated that he has seen progress in resolving Ukraine conflict, which is quite interesting statement to make right now when Russian troops are advancing and advancing big time, right? 3 major strongholds of Kiev regime is about to be liberated by Russian forces: Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, and Kupyansk. And the Russian troops are advancing on a number of other directions, strategical areas also, right? Seversk Liman, for example, Volchansk, Gulyai-Pole direction, the Dnipropetrovsk region, Zaporozhye region in general, by the way, not just Gulyai-Pole, but Russian troops advancing in western flank of Zaporozhye sector too. Most quieter sector right now is probably Sumy direction and Kherson direction, right? Relative to other sectors, that is. But nevertheless, Trump says, he sees some progress. US President Donald Trump and his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, have both noted progress in finding a negotiated solution to Ukraine conflict aimed worsening situation on the ground for the Kiev forces. And yeah, that was exactly what I wanted to say. Maybe because, you know what, they see, they will have more arguments now while talking to globalists, I guess, if time to time these America First people will manage to have some influence on Trump, or they will probably tell, just pull out the country from this proxy war, and this is not our war. We should not be part of this, right? And whenever Trump is on that mood to listen to America First, probably he's coming up with such statements. I don't know. Yet again, difficult to say what is going on in Trump's mind, but yeah, he sees some progress, and ironically, this progress, ironically for the West, by the way, this progress is Russian progress of the Russian armed forces on the ground. Meanwhile, globalists and globalist-controlled regimes, of course, don't want to hear nothing about losing this proxy war, and therefore they are sending more money, more military equipment to Kiev regime to prolong this proxy war as much as possible. And for example, Latvia, by the way, Baltic Chihuahua quasi-state transferred their 21 armored personnel carriers, Patria armored personnel carriers, and the 12 other type of personnel carriers to Kiev regime. 33 vehicles in total, 33 armored vehicles. Okay, it will take 33 drones, maybe a little more, and there is only burning metal left from these vehicles. But yet again, when this is happening on daily basis, by the way, today it's Latvia, yesterday was Italy, day before Denmark, day before that some other Germany. This is a constant flow dozens and dozens and dozens of military equipment, armored vehicles, and some other stuff that is constantly moving into Kiev control territory. And unfortunately, this is one of the reasons why this second phase or plan B of special military operation, which is attrition campaign, is taking so long, because there is a whole NATO about like dozens and dozens of countries, right, that are sending money and their military equipment to prolong this war as much as possible. And of course, it takes time, by the way, to destroy even this relatively small batch of equipment that Kiev regime gonna receive from Latvia. But nevertheless, 33 vehicles, by the way, it's 33 vehicles. This is transport vehicles. They can carry each, I guess, at least 5 to 7 military personnel, right? So make the math, by the way. It's still significant. Yes, we're gonna deal with it. We will destroy everything that NATO will send to Kiev regime, or most of it, right? Some will be captured, but nevertheless, this constant flow of money and weapons and intelligence and all sorts of support from collective West is, of course, main reason why this attrition part of Plan B is taking quite a few years. But according to some experts, we are getting close to the point when this attrition campaign will have its major fruits, right? Which means we will begin seeing beginning of a domino effect on a line of contact, when Kiev regime's forces will begin collapsing line after line after line after line. Some experts say it will happen in 2-3 months' time. Some experts say maybe towards the end of 2026. I'm not military expert. I don't know much about military stuff, so I don't really have a strong opinion on that. But maybe those military experts know what they are talking about, right? And as soon as this conflict will end, of course, the better. Less lives will be lost and more lives will be saved. But yet again, as long as there is anybody left on Kiev-controlled territory that can be forcefully mobilized and thrown to trenches, I guess this money flow and weapons flow not going to stop. And this another criminal from the West, from the Western elites, Rutte, Secretary General of NATO, brag about how successful they are, NATO countries, to ramp up munition production, for example. And let me give you some statements from him. And we have quotes here. As for the future, Russia will continue to be a destabilizing force in Europe and the world. And Russia is not alone in its attempts to undermine global rules. What global rules? What these people talking about? I mean, do you understand, dear friends? Many members of our community are from the West. What are they talking about whenever they mention this rules-based order? We are talking about their dominance, right? That anything they say is a rule, is a law. If they are disagree with it, it's nothing. So only they might have opinion. Only they might have a right on decisions. No one else. That's their attitude, isn't it? Am I understanding correct? And this is laughable, isn't it? These elements, these so-called elites in the West, are clearly have lost touch with reality, because the world has changed dramatically in last 30 years, let's say, right? And at this particular point, clearly West is in no position to dictate this world what to do. They might try, and they are trying, and unfortunately there are many countries in this world that are afraid to resist, but there are other countries too that not just resist, but actually smacking their freaking faces. I mean, Western elites, right? Smacking the faces of the Western elites. And Russia definitely is one of those countries that are putting Western elites into their places on daily basis, literally on day-to-day basis. But nevertheless, I mean, they are coming up with this kind of statements as if they are still like dominant force and everyone have to listen to them, right? No, man, you are no longer dominant force. But nevertheless, let's continue. Let's see what he has to say there. So, and Russia is not alone in its attempts to undermine global rules. As you know, it cooperates with China, North Korea, Iran, and others. And you see, dear friends, how significantly language has changed of these criminals that are in charge of the West. Some time ago, a couple of years ago, they were quite careful, especially in Europe, by the way. They were quite careful to talk about China. They were quite careful, but nowadays they don't. Nowadays they don't, and they are extremely anti-Chinese in their statements. And you know why? To please their American partners, to please neocons, because they know, for neocons or for US political class, it's not Russia that is main threat. At least that's how they see the things, right? It's China. It's China. And to please Washington, political class in US, all their groups of interests, powerful groups of interest, they are attacking China. European elites are attacking China literally on a daily basis, right? And these attacks are not just statements, but actual steps against China. Just recently in Netherlands, that was, isn't it? Chinese company was seized. Chinese-owned company, chip maker, I believe, was seized. What the hell, right? So that's what is happening there. But let's continue with some other statements from this elementer. Their listed countries are strengthening their defense and the industrial cooperation to an unprecedented level. Oh, great, by the way. I said many times, Russia, China should increase cooperation every way possible. Russia and Iran too, Russia and North Korea too, and Russia and India too, Russia and all the other countries. And you see, by the way, how they are constructing the sentences. They want to create, and they were successful in creating anti-Russian sentiment, right? And unfortunately, in the Western world, majority of societies probably hate Russia, hate Russians, everything Russian, even without understanding why, just because they've been told, right, to hate Russia. Same can be said about North Korea. North Korea was demonized tremendously, obviously. Iran demonized tremendously, and China. Now there is a big campaign, especially in Europe, by the way. US had demonized China for a while. I mean, it's a long story there. But in Europe, demonization of China is relatively new stuff, and it's actively being pushed. Rutte continues, we cannot be naive, we must be prepared. President Roosevelt said that the powerful enemies must be outmatched in a battle and production. That was in 1942, and the same can be said today. We call it peace through strength. You see, Rutte is trying hard to please Trump and his administration too, because it's this American psychos, isn't it, that come up with this nonsense, peace through strength. What that even means, man. And Rutte also said that NATO countries have already turned their tide on munition. The alliance is now opening dozens of new production lines, and they're expanding existing ones. Well, he's lying. He's lying, by the way. Yes, they are building more and more plants. They are investing heavy, by the way, in military-industrial complex. German companies from military-industrial complex are reporting record profits, while all other industries are failing. Military-industrial complex is gaining momentum and having tremendous income, tremendous profits. But they are still nowhere near to the levels of production capability of Russian military industrial complex. And obviously, they're never gonna get even closer to capabilities of China, right? And if it comes necessary, by the way, we should keep in mind that if it comes necessary, if Western elites will manage to prolong this proxy war against Russia for another 2, 3, 5 years, in that case, eventually they might catch up with Russia, obviously, with weapons production, right? Weapons, munition production, and so on. And at that point, if absolutely necessary, I think China will get engaged directly, maybe in this confrontation, or at least China will begin transferring weapons openly. Right now, China is not sending no weapons, right? There are some double user equipment is coming from China, for sure, but weapons, no. And if it will become necessary, I'm quite sure China will support Russia with weaponry also. After all, like entire Western world is, by the way, engaged in this proxy war against Russia, and nothing is wrong if Russian allies will support Russia too. And you remember some time ago, I was quite angry, upset that BRICS member states, and I'm saying BRICS member states not because BRICS is a military alliance, no, BRICS is an economical alliance, but nevertheless, BRICS member states supposed to be Russian allies, right? That's what I meant when I was mentioning BRICS. So those Russian allies, I think, should be more involved, by the way, in support of Russia, including in military terms. For now, only North Korea is a country that openly supported Russia militarily. No one else. And this is not good, by the way. This is not good. After all, we all understand that this world is going to get divided anyways, right? It's only a matter of time, and they're going to be two parts of this world, right? Separated parts of this world. Western world on one side, rest of the world on the other side, right? Western world is about 20% of this world. Rest of the world is 80%, but that's how world gonna get separated, isn't it? Process is already underway, and you know what? Let's isolate Western world then. I think this proxy war that West is waging against Russia is actually offering opportunity to the rest of the world to accelerate process of isolating West, and we can do this. And when I say isolating West, I mean first of all isolate Western elites, because I'm never going to support shutting down borders for the people, right? For the people to communicate. No way. People should be allowed to move in and out freely, right? Because only ways we're going to get ever united again or find common ground, I mean, Western world and the rest of the world, is if we are communicating, isn't it? If we are realizing that we can actually do something together, we not necessarily have to be freaking enemies, man, right? That's very important, and therefore door always has to be open for people, but to isolate political West is absolutely necessary, and process is on the way, of course, but it's a slow freaking process. And if allies of Russia take a stand and began supporting Russia militarily too, not just politically, not just economically, but militarily too, that will definitely accelerate this isolation of the West, political West, let's say, which is necessary. But meanwhile, I mean, globalists and globalist puppets all over the Western world are acting bolder, acting tougher, trying to maintain this false narrative that they are big bosses, right, of this planet. And in this game, time to time, they are just going too far and making from themselves a laughing stocker. And very same Rutte, for example, in this attempt to act tough, went to say that he don't even cares what Putin has to say, Russian president. Okay, Okay, then you are stupid then. That's what we are saying, and you are freaking stupid, man. If you don't listen to Russian president, what he has to say, then you just are stupid. That's it. That's most logical explanation, right? You are engaged in a war against Russia, and you are not listening what Russian president has to say. Wow, what a genius! But I'm telling you, dear friends, in this attempt to act tough and present themselves to be some these cowboy elements, they are saying some really crazy stuff and making laughing stock from themselves. So now NATO General Secretary General Mark Rutte stated at the press conference in Bucharest that he no longer pays attention to Russian President Vladimir Putin's speeches. We have quote here: "I have long since stopped responding to meetings organized by Putin," he said. Day before, Russian president ordered the collection of information and the analysis conducted at the Russian Security Council and proposals for the possible commencement of the work on preparing for nuclear weapons test. And on this matter, by the way, on the topic of nuclear tests, Rutte said that he is not listening to Putin and to anyone else, basically, from Russia. And to any event that is and not pays no attention to any event that is taking place in Russia. Okay, Valo. Okay, if so, you've been stupid, Rutte. Even more stupid than I was thinking. But if you are lying about, if you are just trying to act tough, that you just don't care, then you know what? This is not your stage, man. Go somewhere in acting school, learn how to do it, because you're not gonna be seen as a freaking tough guy by anybody, man. This freaking LGBTQ creature, man. What the fuck? anyways, let's continue. And by the way, I'm not saying that I have anything about LGBTQ creatures. No, I just don't give a damn about them, right? But I'm not calling for nothing against them. Whole Western world, many, not whole, but many people in the Western world there has gender dysphoria, right? They are struggling to understand, are they men, are they women, that kind of stuff. And I can feel sorry for them. So therefore, yeah. That's it, man. These freaking clowns, man. Meanwhile, RIA Novosti is reporting that, and you know what? Some might say that why you care what Rutte has to say, and I don't, man. He's just a freaking Secretary General of NATO, right? Otherwise, I definitely don't care what Rutte has to say, or anyone else among Western elites. When they are representing certain institutions that potentially, can do some even more harm, right, to this world, well, we just don't really have an option but to, pay attention, at least to be ready, more or less, right? Or to have a better understanding what to expect from those cycles, right? And but when it comes to Russian president, for example, maybe Rutte don't care what Russian president has to say, maybe, but it's not important. What is important? What Russian people think about Putin, right? That's most important, actually. And on this very matter, dear friends, I saw this morning this report on RIA Novosti on the matter of trust to Putin in Russia, and 8 out of 10, or 77% of Russians trust Russian President Vladimir Putin, and 78% of respondents rate their head of the state's performance positively, according to a poll by the Public Opinion Foundation. The majority, 77% of Russian citizens, said they tend to trust Putin, while 11% of respondents expressed a lack of trust in the Russian leader. Furthermore, 78% of respondents believe Putin is doing a good job as a president of Russia, while only 8% of Russians believe that they're opposite. According to survey result published on a FOM website, half or 50% of respondents believe the Russian government is performing fairly well. Only half, man. But okay, I can understand why half these high interest rates and almost complete absence of possibility to get a loan if you need to under adequate interest rate is, of course, makes life difficult for many people. Okay, only 50% believes that Russian government is performing fairly well. No, man, I think Russian government is doing good, more or less good job, man. Right, so I'm a bit disappointed that only 50% thinks so. Can you imagine, man? 30,000 sanctions on Russia, and the economy is still standing strong, man. And how so? Who make it possible? Government, right? Economical bloc, first of all. And when I say government, I mean economical bloc, by the way, and security bloc, right? Of course, rest is also very important, but that's what me personally focused on, first of all. And I mean, they are doing good job, man. So why it's only 50%? I have no freaking idea. While 29% of the Russians say they are rather dissatisfied with their cabinet's performance. 54% of citizens rate Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin's performance positively, while 13% disapprove. Come on, man. What you gonna disapprove about Mishustin, man? Guy is just freaking working, man. He is not acting as a politician, by the way. He clearly does nothing to somehow gain some political points, right? He's not engaged in all those games. He's freaking focused on job, right? To make sure that this economical bloc, obviously, first of all, is doing everything necessary to make sure that her economy is standing strong, and he's doing good job, man. Right? In this regard, he's a good manager. Let's say he's quite a good manager. Survey participants were also asked to imagine that elections to the Russian State Duma would take place next Sunday, and less than half, 43% of Russians say they would vote for United Russia. That's a ruling party, by the way, right now. Also, 43%. Okay. Quite high number, but not as high as support of Russian president or even prime minister. 8% would support Liberal Democratic Party of Russia. Same percentage, 8% would support Communist Party. 4% will support New People, and 3% will support Just Russia. I mean, it is unfortunate that Just Russia Party has lost their momentum, by the way. This is leftist party, Just Russia. And I think some 10 years ago, by the way, 10, 15 years ago, this party had their good chances to compete with their ruling party, right? At least to compete with Communist Party. And Communist Party was a second at the time, brother. I don't know what happened with this party, man. But they lost support of people. This Just Party. And now, if you ask me, if, for example, if on next Sunday, there is parliamentary election, would I go to vote? And if so, to who? To which party I would vote? I mean, I don't know. I don't really know, man. I would not vote for United Russia Party, ruling party, because I'm not happy with the level of fight against corruption. Although there is a good fight against corruption, but I'm not happy with it yet, right? I want corrupt officials to be designated. I want corruption to be treated as a treason, and therefore corrupt officials to be designated as a treasoners, right? And all their belongings, everything to be confiscated from them, right? And they to be sentenced to prison for life, because there is no death sentence here in Russia. There's a moratorium on that. So therefore, treasoners should serve whole life in prison, at least most of it, right? And I would support any party that will come up with this idea, really, to designate corruption as a treason and corrupt officials as a treasoners, right? Traitors. But none of them are doing this. When it comes to United Russia Party, by the way, there is every day, literally every day, Russian security services are arresting some officials, by the way, quite often high-ranking officials all over the Russia, right? Most of them are exactly from this United Russia Party. So what the hell, man? Are you checking who you are taking in and who you are supporting to become either MP, local MP in these regions all over the country, or to become official? How come that so many corrupt elements are from this party, man? It's a legit question, isn't it? So why would I support this party, even if Russian president supports it, or government, or whomever? I would not support this liberal democratic party, because this party was always associated to me personally with some right extremist ideas, right? Even when party, especially when party was led by Zhirinovsky, by the way. And I don't like no extremists, man. Definitely not. I'm not gonna vote for Communist Party ever, because I mean, they had a chance, and I mean, Gorbachev was a communist, right? Shevardnadze was a communist. They betray people. Communist Party betray people, by the way, right? They destroy Soviet Union. Bolsheviks and communists, one might argue, they betray people of Russian Empire when they orchestrated the revolution, basically, right? Some might argue they betray, and by legal standards, that's exactly what they did, right? They committed an anti-constitutional act, and after that there was a civil war and millions of people died, and we all know history, right? And then when Soviet Union was created, right, another communists, Gorbachev, Shevardnadze, and the rest of the garbage, including Yeltsin, by the way, they betrayed Soviet people again, right? And they destroy country. So therefore, I never ever I'm gonna vote for Communist Party, man. No. They might have great people in it right now, but at least they should change freaking name, man. Right? Because right now this Communist Party is a descendant of that Soviet Communist Party, and for that reason, even though if they have great ideas or if they have great people in the party, I'm not gonna vote for them. I'm not gonna vote for communists ever. Just Russia Party, Справедливая Россия. They used to be, sympathetic party, right? Some time ago, but I'm not gonna vote for them right now, because why would I? I mean, they lost momentum. They had a chance, man. They had a chance, but something went wrong there. And New People's Party, I mean, this is new party in a parliament, relatively new party, and well, I have heard some ideas from some of the leadership of this party, and I don't really know them much for now, but if anything, I probably will vote either for New People's Party anyways, just to give them a chance, show us what you can. And this party is more like a centrist party, center-right, something like that. If I understand correctly. Yet again, I don't really pay much attention to domestic politics, man. But yes, if anything, I would vote for New People's Party probably. Even if I will go to elections. So yeah, that's numbers, by the way. That's numbers. Russian president has 78% trust of people, 77% of trust of the people, sorry, and 78% of the respondents rate his job, his performance positively. What is the difference between trust and rate positively? I have no freaking idea, but I guess there is some difference there. So, okay, that's what matters. And I said many times before, by the way, we might like some decisions of Russian president or don't like, but vast majority of Russian Federation made its decision. They supported Putin to be president of Russia, and he is a president of Russia. And there are many decisions that's it's his prerogative. It's a president's decisions, and we have to live with this, right? We might like it or not, but okay. I mean, if we don't like it, we can drink cold water, man, and chill a little bit, right? Because people have made it clear, majority. Putin is a president, and it's he have to make decisions, right or wrong, but he is a man who have to make decisions that will determine the many things. And yes, that's democracy for you, by the way. That's the democracy. Vast majority, I have no doubts, by the way, that vast majority of people here in Russia positively says about Putin's work something nice, positive, and majority has trust in him. So it is what it is. Meanwhile, how long is this update, man? This update is 1.5 hours. Wow. That's interesting. Maybe I should end the live stream. I still have quite a lot of news, dear friends, left. Maybe I should end this live stream now and do another one later on, because it's just too freaking long. Okay, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I will just give you this report that you see on your screen right now, which is that lawmakers accused their AfD, which is Alternative for Germany party, of spying on the German army on behalf of Russia. This is reported by Euronews, by the way, and I don't really have a comment on that. Just literally a couple of days ago, while talking about political situation in Europe, I said that either globalists will corrupt these alternative parties that are gaining momentum in Europe, including in Germany, or they will go ahead with a straight ban of these parties. And only took like few days after I said that, and we have this report now that lawmakers accuse AfD of spying on the German army on behalf of Russia. They are accusing AfD of treason, right? This is very serious stuff, man. How you can accuse a whole freaking party of treason? Do those people, those lawmakers in Germany, understand that words have a meaning? I don't know, but that's where Germany is right now. And this information can be seen as an indicator that maybe, just maybe, there is a chance that globalists at least did not manage to corrupt AfD completely, right? They might manage to infiltrate AfD on some level, but maybe not completely. Otherwise, this party would not be under such a pressure. Does it make sense? I mean, does my reading of the picture make sense? I have no doubts that AfD is infiltrated by the globalists, right? On some levels. But probably they still don't have a complete control over the party, over their ideas that the party is uniting German people around, right? And or not ideas, but policies rather, right? And that's why this kind of craziness is happening in regards to AfD. Maybe the case, man. I don't know, but to accuse the entire party of being a traitor, oh, that's a fascist stuff, man. That's what fascists did, exactly in Germany, right? And then they burned down a freaking Reichstag, man. And I'm talking about actual Nazis. When they burned down Reichstag, I can't remember the year, by the way, but they conducted basically a coup d'etat, right? And they, after that, they become our main force, and they ban everyone else. And that's what modern German political elites are doing. That's the way they are acting. They want to ban everything and everybody that they don't like. And same can be said about many other countries, by the way. You take a look at the UK, man. You know. So okay, I will end the live stream on that. Dear friends, there was no, as I said, there's still quite a lot of news left, by the way, interesting, important news. But I will next update. I will save this rest of the news for next update, because it's already 1.5 hours too long. And dear friends, there was no, let me check just to make sure, there was no super chat through, there was no super chat through Rumble, but I see right now on message on mail that there was something on a Boosty. Let me check, dear friends. Let me check, just a minute. There was a donation on a Boosty, dear friends, from Rain Leslie Woods. Thank you very much for $10 donation, Leslie. And the comment is, keep fighting, the good fighter, brother. Much love from America. Thank you very much for your kind words and the donation. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. And dear friends, maybe there was some question or the comment through PayPal, but as I said, Anya is not here, Anna, my wife, and maybe she just has no time to check her PayPal. If there was anything, I will highlight, dear friends, during the next update. And if you want your donation through PayPal, for example, let's say, not to be highlighted, just send, leave the message, or don't highlight or something. Just let me know, and that will do. Usually, I'm only saying name. I'm not even saying full name. This was nickname on a boost, isn't it? When it's a clearly nickname, or it seems like nickname, I might say it full, but otherwise, I'm not. This is it for now, dear friends. Thank you all for your attention. Hopefully you did like their video. Hopefully you did like their update. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary. This might help. And well, what else? I don't know about tomorrow, dear friends. Will I take day off or not? Probably I'm not. But anyways, tomorrow I have a plan to go on the Red Square. There is a exhibition of historical exhibition right now devoted to legendary parade that took place in 1941 in November exactly. And I want to make video there and share on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and maybe I will share on YouTube and Rumble to at least some parts of that video. So let's see, dear friends, how it will work out. So yes, this is it for now. Anyways, I will be back on Sunday with a big community chat and fundraising stream. So see you either tomorrow or this Sunday. Thank you very much, dear friends, and have a nice day and great upcoming weekend. Thank you for your attention. Bye.